Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex Stevenson and Jake Face here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. Jake, how is it going?
Going okay. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So we got to talk about prophecy this week, but before we jump into it, I just want to tell everybody that I've got the first tutorial for my game Travelers of Storia up at travelersofstoria.com. Also on our YouTube page, and you can find that. Check that out. I'd love to hear some more feedback. And check out the forums at travelersofstoria.com and try those out. I just put those up today. So, yeah, if you have questions, rules questions, or you want to get news updates about it, check in with those forums. But yeah, so we were doing Mercadian Masques block. Did Masques, we did Nemesis. Now we're finishing it off with Prophecy, so this should be pretty fun. Without further ado, why don't we jump into it?
Cyclical evolution.
All right, like I said, we're doing Prophecy this week, so we're just going to talk about the cycles of Prophecy. And these are going to be all new to me. Even though I just made this PowerPoint, I didn't look at the cards too closely. So, Jake, I'm sure you can guide us through this very well. Is there anything you want to say about Prophecy, sort of lore or flavor, anything cool about it?
Well, it introduced Ristic cards, cards that were better if your opponent didn't pay to counter them or like counter half of their effect or whatever it was. This set is pretty much seen as a big flop from,
really?
Yeah, most Magic players. There are a few, good cards in it, but overall it's not very... It didn't really affect any formats in a major way. But, there's still some cool cards in it. The concepts they played around with were cool, and if they had been done in a different way, I think it could have been correct. Like, a lot of it is how much land you had tapped, so you would get better effects if you were tapped out or whatever, which made the Ristic stuff work for your opponent then. There was a true risk to what you were doing. But it was just, I think they didn't have enough time to flesh it out, so all by itself it just seemed kind of shoehorned in,
I see. Okay. Well, I didn't think it was a flop. From the cards I remember from Prophecy, I thought it was kind of fun. But I do see the idea of Ristic, the Ristic thing kind of... The only card that comes to mind is like Ristic Study, which was just bonkers. But mostly because of Commander, I guess. Less because of... or was it Constructed played too? Do you know?
It might have been in the Rising Waters deck.
Was that the pirate thing or whatever, where they would make them sack permanents if you...
Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, and we saw those cards in Nemesis, right?
The pirate cards, most of that deck was out in Mercadian Masques.
Okay.
Rising Waters, the key to that deck came out in Nemesis, yeah.
Okay. That's cool though. I mean, even though that, I don't know, that was an actual tier 1 deck for a while, right? Or was it more fringe, do you think?
Like Chinese Water Torture or something like that was what it was called.
I don't know. Something about that deck was strangely appealing. Maybe it's just because it's such an unusual thing for blue to be doing, making your opponent, sack permanents or bouncing their stuff, basically.
They had days, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had all, Gush, all the things that let them bounce lands too, just to get the free spell effect, were really, really good when they were also playing the mana artifacts, just Mind Stone or the one that they played for sure was Sky Diamond. And I guess at the time you also had access to the like Eye of Ramos from Mercadian Masques, and there must have been something else that I'm not saying, but you know, there was just if you weren't playing mana rocks yourself, then you were just gonna get hosed by that deck.
Yeah, that's cool. That is cool. Um, I can't wait until we start actually doing the sets where we really started getting familiar with limited, because I think at this time both of us were still, much kitchen table
Mm.
Magic players. But once we get to like Lorwyn block, I think we said this before. Once we get to like Lorwyn or maybe even Time Spiral block, I think we're both going to be a lot more familiar with how good certain archetypes were in drafts and sealed
Yeah.
and stuff like that. All right, let's go into prophecy here. So the first cycle we've got is Abolish in white, Foil in blue, Outbreak in black, Flame Shot in red, and Snag in green. So all of these are, you may discard a land, and the land has to be, it's color specific. So for Abolish, white, you discard a plains, Foil, blue, you discard an island, so on. And they all have pretty cool little abilities. Now, the one exception to this seems to be the foil, where you not only have to discard an island, but you have to discard another card as well. So there is a little bit more of a cost for foil, but it is straight up counter spell. And Jake, when we were making this, you kind of commented that it was like force of will in that respect. Um, so
It also like pair really well with a lot of the other blue cards that were free in this block, which just made you bounce lands to get the effect, you know. So days you just bounce an island, then you're already ready to pay half half the free cost of foil, you know. So foil is actually really strong. I'm surprised that they thought that blue needed a second free counter spell in the format, like a free hard counter, because thwart was around too, which was bounce 3 islands.
Okay. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo on myself here. Let's see. So the white one destroys an artifact or an enchantment. The foil counters a spell. So the blue one, black, choose a creature type. All creatures of that type get -1/-1 until end of turn. Red, flame shot. You get to deal 3 damage divided how you choose. And green is snag. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt by unblack creatures. So I think I like the flame shot probably the most. It is a sorcery though, so you can't use it in a timely manner, in response to stuff. But I feel like flame shot's pretty incredible because you get to divide the damage, and you could potentially do it at the cost of, a mountain. Still play stuff that turn. I feel like that's really powerful. Outbreak is pretty cool too because you get to choose a creature type, so it can be like a one-sided thing against tokens. I like both of those. I guess the Abolish is, blah, whatever. I don't need a free disenchant. It's not bad. It's just not terribly exciting. Foil is probably still pretty legitimate. And Snag, it's not that exciting either. But actually, I guess Snag is pretty good because with Snag, you can be completely tapped out and still get your opponents, preventing the combat damage.
I actually like snag because it also allows you to kill creatures in combat still. So you
That's
can
a good point, yeah. So you can do like, you can still make trades, maybe, or something like that. Very cool. Okay, well, let's move on to the next ones. Okay, this one's kind of a cool one. We've got Majee the Lion, Alexi Zephyr Mage, Greel Mindraker, Latula Keldon Overseer, and Jalrail Impressive Beast. So this is cool. We've got a Spell Shaper Legend cycle. They all have a cost with their color in it and tap, and then you discard 2 cards and you get an ability. So Majee has destroy all creatures except for Majee the Lion, and those creatures can't be regenerated if you discard 2. Lexi Zephyr Mage, you discard 2 and you get to bounce X creatures to their hand, which seems really strong. Greel Mindraker, discard 2, you can make an opponent discard X cards at random from their hand. Latula lets you discard 2 cards, and then she's a fireball, or a Disintegrate, or I guess not that either. What's it called when you can't spread
Or-
it? She's a Carevex Torch. And
Yeah.
then Jaw Rail, Impressive Beast, uh, discard 2, and all land target player controls become 3/3s. That's pretty cool too. This looks like a really fun cycle. I'm a big fan of this one.
This is a great cycle. Majita, in particular, I had a Majita commander deck, and that's pretty obnoxious to just have Wrath on a stick.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I think what's really cool about this is it's like the last iterations of Spell Shapers that you really, like where they eventually culminate into. That's why I like it, because you have to discard an extra card, but you get these really powerful abilities. Whereas, the kind of lesser Spell Shapers, you discard one card, but you don't get as good of ability. So it's
Mhm.
like I like the idea of these being like the legendary, sweet, really good Spell Shapers.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. I like them a lot. Um, Latula seems bonkers, and Alexi seems really devastating too. Even, I mean, they all seem pretty good. I don't have a problem with any of them too much. Maybe Greel isn't as exciting, but he's still pretty good.
Hmm.
Majita, like you said, very good. Yeah, this just seems like a successful sort of cycle. I like it.
I think so too.
All right, let's go to the next one, and it's still in line with our last one. So now it's Majita's Boon, Alexi's Cloak, Greel's Caress, Latula's Orders, and Jalrail's Favor. So one from each color, um, obviously have their Spell Shaper legend in the name, and they're all auras. Actually, no, they are all auras that can be played at instant speed. And Majita's Boon, the white one, gives +1/+2. Alexi's Cloak gives Shroud. Greel's Caress gives -3, -0 to a creature. Latula's Orders has whenever an enchanted creature deals combat damage to a defending player, you can destroy an artifact that player controls. And Jalrail's Favor gives instant speed, 1 and a green, regenerate. Now, I said to you, this would have been cool in Theros. I think we said that about a couple of the aura or enchantment cycles from the last couple sets too.
Mhm.
This seems like a really good cycle, though. This is kind of the next generation of those ones from Mirage that you had to sacrifice if you played them at instant speed. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, these are like well, I think they had done them in Mercadian Masques already, too. But these are like more like the Visions ones, I think. Forgetting what the Black Vision one was, but
They did the same thing, same sort of thing, though.
I guess only Alexi's Cloak, really. But still, it's in that same line of just trying to fix that old ability that was really not good.
I like how they all play. They all seem like legitimate combat tricks. I guess with the exclusion of Latula's Orders, which maybe is a bit underwhelming. But Alexi's Cloak, I really like the Shroud out of nowhere. It's basically a counterspell to removal.
Hmm.
Greel's Caress, I like that a lot. Even though it doesn't affect their toughness, you can double black a fatty and maybe cast that and not lose
Yeah.
anything. Majita's Boon, definitely, legit combat trick. And then Jalrail's Favor, definitely too. I like the regen. So this seems like a successful cycle of auras that I would definitely see playing at the time.
Yeah, I think Alexi's Cloak still stands out as the best.
Is that
Just
right?
because Commander, you can use it still, and, it actually has legitimate value. Even Latula's Orders, I suppose, in Commander could be fine.
All right. Well, let's go to the next cycle then. This is the Avatar cycle. So we have Avatar of Hope, Avatar of Will, Avatar of Woe, Avatar of Fury, and Avatar of Might. Hope is the white one, and it's an 8 mana 4/9 with flying. And if you have 3 or less life or less, it costs 6 less to play. And it can block any number of creatures, which is kind of cool. Avatar of Will, 8 mana 5/6 flying. And if an opponent has no cards in hand, it's 6 less to play. Avatar of Woe is an 8 mana 6/5. And if there's 10 or more creature cards total in all graveyards, Avatar of Woe costs 6 less to play. It also has Fear, and it has tap, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That thing's got a lot. Avatar
Yeah.
of Fury, 8 mana 6/6 flyer. If an opponent controls 7 or more lands, it costs 6 less to play, and it has fire breathing. And then Avatar of Might is an 8 mana 8/8 trample. And if an opponent controls at least 4 more creatures than you, Avatar of Might costs 6 less to play. So, to me, the Avatar of Woe really stands out as the most badass one, since it has the evasion and it can just tap and destroy stuff.
Yeah, I'd say that one is easily the best of this cycle, hands down.
And then after that, what do you like?
I think Avatar of Fury or Avatar of Might.
Avatar of Fury definitely seems
I feel
pretty
like
good.
Avatar of Fury is one of those that once you get the cheap cost on it, it's actually not that good anymore.
Oh, really?
But yeah, or like it
Oh,
just
because they already have 7 lands, so presumably they've probably got an answer to it, or a board's like you'd expect only like a control deck to really get 7 lands out. So
exactly.
I
In
see.
which case it might be much better to just have to play only 2 or pay 2 mana, have a lot more mana left up. But I can't really see a reason for it other than that. Avatar of Might seems a little more feasible, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just have no land or no creatures out and you can feed them creatures somehow. Somehow there's a way to get people creatures. Like Elephant Resurgence and stuff like that gives everybody a token.
That's cool.
So Avatar of Might probably the second best in my opinion. I really hate Avatar of Hope because 3 life is so dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah,
I feel
but it could be a
life.
godsend since it's got the fly and it can block any number of creatures, you know?
Yeah. I do feel like 10 life though. That's already pretty low, you know.
She looks a little homely in that picture. She doesn't look terribly attractive.
Well, she is an avatar. She's not like, you know. She
Human.
didn't have to be pretty.
Avatar of Woe is more attractive, though.
Yeah.
Or is Avatar of Woe a drag queen? Actually, I can't tell.
Yeah, well, it's a VR drag queen. It's Lady Gaga. It's
Oh,
three different images of Lady Gaga
yeah. They just,
in the ultimate Lady Gaga costume.
before she was famous. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, we've got Flowering Field in white, Sunken Field in blue, Noxious Field in black, Barbed Field in red, and Verdant Field in green. So we've got the field cycle. And all of these are land auras. The white one taps, and you get to prevent, all of them give the enchanted land the tap ability. So with the white one, you get to prevent the next 1 damage that be dealt to a creature or player. Always good in limited. Sunken Field, tap, counter a spell unless its controller pays 1. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Noxious Field, ping. That's really good.
It's
Oh, no,
pestilent.
it's Pestilence. Wow. So it's 1 to each creature and each player. That's insane. And it's only 3 mana. Barbed Field is actually a ping, and that costs 4 mana. And then Verdant Field is target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This is a great cycle. I'm happy with all of these. Do you have a preference?
I do think that like Sunken, Noxious, and Barbed are my favorites because it's really easy to forget about Sunken Field like after it's been played on turn 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Noxious Field just for whittling people away and keeping small creatures off the board. It's a great control style card, as is Barb Field. Verdant Field is my 4th favorite, but it's still a great card. And I think Flowering Field is actually the weakest, just because tapping for prevent 1 isn't as impressive when you've got 2 of them that actually tap to deal 1. You know, and Noxious Field deals quite a bit more than 1 damage.
I totally agree. I think the Noxious Field is really insane. I like that a lot. Just for limited, of course. I mean, because obviously Pestilence was a... what was that, actually? Was Pestilence an uncommon?
They printed it at Common a couple
God.
times. It really belongs at Uncommon.
Yeah. But, yeah, this is a really cool cycle. I'm a big fan of this. So far, I've been pretty happy with Prophecy. I'm surprised it was considered a flop. I haven't really been disappointed with any of these cycles.
It mostly just didn't fit in with what was happening, you know.
I see. Okay. All right, on to the next one. We've got Blessed Wind in white, Denying Wind in blue, Plague Wind in black, Searing Wind in red, and Vitalizing Wind in green. Next cycle is all wind cards, so very cool. Blessed Wind is 9 mana. Target player's life total becomes 20. Denying Wind, they're all 9 mana, I should just say. So Denying Wind, the blue one, you get to search a player's library for up to 7 cards and exile them. Then they shuffle. Plague Wind, this one's a classic, very good commander card. Destroy all creatures you don't control that can't be regenerated for black. Searing Wind, the red one, 10 damage to a creature or player. Instant speed, might I add. And Vitalizing Wind is creatures you control get +7/+7 for 9 mana. Also instant speed. Very cool.
That one.
Yeah. I mean, 9 mana, even in limited, you got to be pretty dedicated ramp to possibly hope to get to 9 mana consistently before the game's over. But is there any one you like the most from this?
I do think Plague Wind is just hands down the best. But I actually like them all for their commander implications. Blessed Wind is actually a great way to stop somebody who's trying to win the game by, like, going to thousands of life, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, well, now your life total's 20, and everyone after me knows to kill you now, you know?
Totally.
So Blessed Wind can be a pretty cool political card in Commander, too. I think they're all great.
Yeah, me too. I like it. I'm down. It would have been cool if Denying Wind let you like search everybody's library and exile up to 7 cards total or something. But
I think Denying Wind should have been more cards in general. It probably should have just let you go get 10.
I agree with that. Or 9 to fit in with the mana cost. Yeah, it's funny actually. It's kind of funny that all the numbers, like there's 4 out of the 5 cards have numbers on them, and none of them have anything to do with the 9 mana cost. So they do occasionally they line that up, right, where it's like a 5 mana and it's got like 5 damage or something. I feel like they align that occasionally, but not in this case. All right, let's move on to the next cycle. We've got Death Charmer and Soul Charmer. So Death Charmer is a black. What did you say? It was a worm mercenary. It's a 2/2. Yeah, worm mercenary. That's pretty ridiculous. Worm mercenary. It's a 2/2. When it deals combat damage to a creature, that creature's controller loses 2 life unless he or she pays 2. So it's almost got the Ristic thing on it. And then Soul Charmer is whenever Soul Charmer deals combat damage to a creature, you gain 2 life unless that creature's controller pays 2. And it's a white rebel creature. So I think that I was going to say the Death Charmer I think is a little more exciting than the Soul Charmer. But what were you going to say?
The Soul Charmer is a snake.
Oh, I see. Okay, so now they're both. But it was errated to a snake rebel.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because that one at least shows you like the trainer in the picture sort of thing, you know. But with the Death Charmer, it's just like basically a fucking, you know, weird
freelance.
Yeah, you're right. Freelance. He's a free agent worm just chilling on a tree branch. So I mean, they're both not that great, but they do have. That is sort of the Ristic ability, right?
Yeah. Sort of that taxing kind of ability.
Yeah, taxation without representation. All right. So a mercenary and rebel. I think I asked you, and you told me that rebel creatures are better than mercenaries. Is it just because there's more rebel creatures overall, or what
the
was
rebels could search up cheaper, like on the cheap, and mercenaries are no. It was actually the other way around. Mercenaries went lower cost than what they were, so you had to commit to something higher cost already to get your lower cost stuff out. Whereas the rebels let you build forward. So you started with like a 1-drop and it let you search up a 3-drop, you know?
Yeah, that does sound better for sure. Okay, very cool. Moving on. All right, so this is Glittering Lion, Glittering Lynx, Ribbon Snake, Wall of Vipers, Zarapa Minotaur, and Ventara Elephant. Now, all of these, there's 2 white ones and then a blue, black, red, and green one. So both Glittering Lion and Glittering Lynx are white. All of these creatures have an activated ability that makes them lose one of their sort of evergreen abilities or make them.
I think the Wall of Vipers actually is not right. I thought that was right, but it isn't part of this cycle. And
Okay,
there isn't a black one that's part of this cycle. But it is that they lose the ability.
I see. And any player can play the ability, I see. So with Ventara Elephant, for example, the green one, it's got Trample, and then any player can pay 3 and make it lose Trample. Zarapa Minotaur is a 3/3 first strike. Any player can pay 2 and make it lose the first strike. Ribbon Snake's a 2/3 flyer, and anybody can pay 2 and make it lose it. And then the Lynx is got 2 until in turn prevent all damage that would be dealt to it, and any player can play that. And you prevent all damage that would be dealt. It loses prevent all. I see. Okay, so originally it just prevents all damage that would be dealt to it, but any player can pay 2 and make it lose that ability. And then Glittering Lion's the same thing, except it's a 2/2, and players have to pay 3 to make it lose the prevent all damage. Okay, this was just an interesting cycle idea in general, where it's like this is sort of still falling in line with the whole flailing soldier or whatever sort of idea. Is that right?
Well, this is like their take on creatures that have been exposed to or created with Ristic magic. Like, that's why they have that crystalline look to portions of them. So the Ribbon Snake has crystal wings. The Minotaur has crystal horns. Both the Glittering Lion and Lynx are entirely made of crystal. And I can't tell exactly on the elephant, but I think it's the horns or, like, its head.
Oh yeah.
Crystal. And that crystal look is, like, what designates Ristic creatures, basically.
All right. Well, I like it. It's very cool. I like the crystalline look. I guess I'm not like totally married to the idea and think it's that awesome. I don't think it's amazing what they've come up with here, but I guess it's just less exciting when it's like, I don't know. I would just keep going back to flailing, where it's like you pay something and you make them lose that ability. Yeah. You make them, when your opponents can affect your cards negatively, that's on the card. Something about that is just less intuitively like fun, you know?
I do think that the other problem is that it should cost a lot more to restrict you, you know? Like, your opponent should have to really invest in doing this if they want the effect. I mean, none of these creatures are terribly impressive, you know?
Yeah, it's true. None of them are, like, bonkers. Yeah, it's not like they're super undercosted. It's almost like the Zarapa Minotaur is the most impressive, or maybe the Ribbon Snake.
But I think the Zarapa Minotaur needs to have, like, a higher cost, otherwise that first strike is totally irrelevant.
Needs to have a higher cost, or needs to have a lower cost?
A higher cost to lose first strike, I mean.
Oh, I see. Because it only costs 2. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. The Ribbon Snake kind of doesn't sneak that well, since you have to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever can block a 2/3 and they have 2 mana open, you don't get to evade pass, so I see. All in all, okay cycle, I guess. They all actually seem much more playable than the flailing cycle, but they're just a bit underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on, we've got Mercenary Informer and Rebel Informer. Mercenary Informer is a 3-mana 2/1 white Rebel Mercenary, and it can't be the target of black spells or abilities, and then you can pay 2 and a white and put a Mercenary card in the bottom of its owner's library. That's kind of cool. So it's a Rebel Mercenary. It's a little cross, and then the Rebel Informer is the same thing except a Mercenary Rebel. It's a 3-mana 1/2, can't be the target of white spells or abilities, and then it's got the same thing except 3, put target Rebel card in the bottom of its owner's library. So a bit different in the activated ability cost. Do you think there's any reasoning for that?
I think that it probably has to do with the fact that Rebel Informer is actually the one that you really want to use in your Rebel deck, and Mercenary Informer is one that you want to use against mercenaries.
I see.
But, like, Rebel Informer lets your rebels avoid harm, you know? And it would actually be a decent card versus another Rebel deck.
Yeah, I could see that, totally. Pictures are pretty cool on these two. I like the bloody blade on the Mercenary Informer. I like the Rebel Informer's about to slay the hell out of a guy. Pretty cool pictures. Weird little crossover with the Rebels and the Mercenaries. Is this the only example of the crossover?
Yeah, totally. I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, very cool. Next we've got Well of Discovery and Well of Life. These are both artifacts. Well of Discovery is 6 mana rare artifact. At the end of your turn, if you control no untapped lands, you get to draw a card. And then Well of Life is 4 mana artifact. At the end of your turn, if you control no untapped lands, you gain 2 life. So these at the time, much more difficult to play because of mana burn. Now they seem perfectly fine. I don't think they're terrible. They would be fine in limited, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Well of Discovery is way better. Well of Life is fine, though. In limited, if you picked a couple of those up, I could see playing both of them.
Yeah, totally. Because it's cool that in multiples, they're still doing stuff together, you know? I guess Well of Discovery is a little bit expensive, but it is colorless, so it might actually be a little tough to play Well of Discovery or Well of Life in limited even, but I don't know what the formats were like, how quick they were, if it was brutal or if it was slower. I usually envision older sets being slower paced, you know.
I do, but I don't know. This one in particular with Rebels in it and stuff, it could have been a lot faster.
It's true. But still, kind of cool idea. I think it's funny that how much the idea of them has changed now because these were designed with mana burn in mind, but now that's not even a thing. So at the time, these would have been much more difficult to play. You actually had to go out of your way to try and tap out in a way that allowed you to gain life or draw the card, or else these literally did nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Weird Harvest. We got Weird Harvest. This is the segment of the show where we talk about a weird card from the past, and obviously going to do one from Prophecy since that's the set of the week. And what we do is we just sort of take a look at the name and art of the picture and make some comments on it. This one's a doozy this week. We've got Squirrel Wrangler. Look at that squirrel's face. If you haven't seen the Squirrel Wrangler before, I definitely recommend checking the picture out on this one. So it's a 4-mana 2/2 Druid. It's got 1 and a green, sack a land, and you get 2 1/1 green Squirrel creature tokens, and you can pay 2 and sack a land, and all squirrels get +1/+1. It's actually a very good card. I think it's a great card. But the picture on it is really the funny part about it. So you've got just all sorts of squirrels basically just running away from, basically doing the bidding of a druid. But the squirrel that's running at you, like in the center of the picture, is just very funny. He's just got these like buck teeth, and it's like a very enraged looking squirrel. So the idea to me of an angry looking squirrel is just really funny.
No, I think this card is, like, whenever you think of the squirrel creature type as a force of death, it's just really funny, And
I think that was kind of the big joke on everybody with the squirrel creatures. It's like, if you're getting beat by a squirrel deck, you're pretty embarrassed because it's like, ugh, I just lost to squirrels. But the truth of the matter is, they actually made quite a few pretty good squirrel cards. Wasn't there like a land aura that spit out squirrels, and wasn't there a guy like I'm even familiar with the guy that comes in and like gives you 3 squirrels right away, right? Isn't there a card that does that?
I think it's 4 squirrels right away. And then there's Nut Collector, which I swear gave you a squirrel every upkeep. And then like had a threshold ability too, or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of squirrel love.
I agree. It's very cool. Okay, I think that's it for this week. I just want to remind everybody again, check out travelersofstoria.com. Check out the tutorial video. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you're into fantasy games, I grew up playing Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, all the good ones. I'm familiar with all those awesome classic Japanese RPGs. I've also been a huge fan of games like Final Fantasy Tactics my whole life, all those tactical combat games. And this entire card game was designed with that in mind. So you get a cooperative experience, so it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. You get to travel around with your buddies. You're exploring terrain. You're fighting monsters together in a very tactical way. It took the deck building elements of Magic, so you get, to build your deck as you go, which is very fun. I'm really happy and proud of the project. Jake had a lot to do with the beginning of it and sort of helping me design a lot of the ideas and actually the art as well. And I'm just really satisfied with where it's at now. So definitely recommend checking out the website, join the forums, leave some comments. I'd love to read them. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you later.